Hi everyone, I hope everyone's having a good Tuesday so far. Today, Eric's going to be talking to you all about OData. Just before we get into it, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to post them throughout. We just won't be answering them until the end of the webinar. And now I'm going to pass it off to Eric.
Hi everybody, how are you doing today? Hope everyone's well. Yeah, today we're going to be talking about OData. So actually, I'm going to be doing a repeat presentation. I actually did this one at TAG, I believe it was last year. And I'm just going to run through a few slides just to explain and get everybody on the same page of what OData is. And then I can take any questions and answer how you can apply it to your systems and kind of take you through a quick walkthrough. But essentially what OData is, is I wanted to start with, what can it do for you? Just to explain the why. So, why would I want to use something like OData? And what OData allows you to do is really take data from your SmartSimple system and then use the information to populate other tools, work with other software. So for example, you may want to have prepare an annual report, maybe a board book, for example. You can use OData to get the information to help you prepare those. Even more simply, maybe you want to do some number here. You can get a nice pivot tables, all those nice things that Excel does, and you can use OData to put the information in there for you. Another use case is just the visualization tools. So things like Power BI, Tableau, they're great visualization tools that help you analyze your data. They make great presentations in terms of charts and graphs. You can use OData from SmartSimple to then populate these other tools to help you with your presentations. So those are some of the reasons why you would use OData and how it could be useful into your day-to-day. And just to show you the scope of how OData is used, these are all different software providers, companies, organizations that support and use OData. So it's not just SmartSimple. It's actually, I believe, Microsoft created OData. It's a standard communication protocol to use between systems on the web, and allows you to share information from one system to another securely, just through as easy as a web link. So all these tools and products here all support OData and will accept or be able to send OData feeds, as they're called. So it is an industry standard. It's not just something we made up here at SmartSimple, but it's a widely used communication standard. So how does it work? What's different? And you may say, okay, I can just do that already. I can export some data, import it into another tool. And that's really what it's saving here. It's that import and export process. So if you think of in this visualization here, using it for delivering products, right? So let's say I have a store and I need to get my merchandise to my store. So the source where I keep all my product is the warehouse, right? That would be SmartSimple. And then maybe I need to do my presentation, prepare my report, my board book, or something like that, or my annual report with charts and graphs. That would be on the far right. That's my storefront. And then OData becomes then the connector. It's the trucks and the trains and planes going back and forth, delivering the information. So the nice thing about the OData, it's a live feed. Once you set it up, you don't need to trigger it anymore. It's always fresh. So if I don't know if you guys ever watched Portlandia, but when you're exporting data, you're manually having to go in there and trigger an export or have it run at a specified time. Whereas with OData, it's always live. Every time I open up that Excel spreadsheet, it's bringing in the latest OData or latest information. If you connect it to Tableau, every time you open up your Tableau or Power BI, it's loading the latest results coming from SmartSimple. So that's the whole key to it. There's no need for you, once you've set up the link, there's no need for you to have to export it or do it manually or trigger the event to happen. You set up the connection, you create the link, and then it does all the work for you. So I thought today we'd do a little presentation here, but instead of me clicking through the slides, recorded little video just to help convey how it can work. So this is just a sample demonstration site for us. And what we've done here is just automated this just to save me some time clicking through live. But if you go to the report section in SmartSimple, any report can be converted into OData. And we do that under the Advanced tab. It's the toggle. Okay, so you can enable the OData connector. There's different versions depending on what tool you want to use or link it to. Once you have enabled it, it provides you with a link. So it's really becomes an exercise in copying and pasting. So I can open up an Excel worksheet. And in here, like I said, it's fully supported. It's built in. If you go to Excel, for example, here, they have an actual option for OData feed. You paste the link into the appropriate area, and then it does the rest. So it's saying, oh, here in SmartSimple, you have these reports that are available to pull from, that are being enabled for OData, and then you can load it into your system. So once it's in here, and we thought we'd use Excel just because it's, I think everyone uses it. But once the data's there, you can do things like this. I can create a pivot chart. It pulls the columns, and this is just standard now. We're not even SmartSimple anymore. This is just Excel. So you have the raw data. You can do nice things like this, charts, graphs. Take the raw data and do any kind of analysis that you want, or combine into other products to use as part of a bigger presentation. So once it's outside of SmartSimple, then you can do whatever you want with it. So I thought I'd lead into today's session here with just the slides. And that's actually it, really. There's not much more to OData. In fact, it's kind of hard to talk too much about it because it's so easy to use. So what I thought I'd do after that is just quickly show you kind of live in the system how you can interact with it. So like you can go to reports. I can edit any report here, and maybe I'll do this one. And under the Advanced tab, I can, this one's already enabled. You can just see it's just the toggle here. But I have my versions. So a couple of things, just like the video showed, I won't run through it again, but you just be aware of which version to use. And if it doesn't work, then just try the next one. There's 3 versions of it now, 2.2, 3, and 4. And depending on what version of Excel or Office or maybe whatever tools you have, it may require a particular version. But you can check with the vendors of those products to see which ones it's expecting. But it's really just doing a copy and paste. However, I wanted to go a little bit more detail than my overview presentation and just specify that when you're using OData, there are some catches that you need to be aware of. And this comes up to, we have a wiki article about it that'll explain, goes a bit more in detail from a technical point of view, but OData doesn't like things such as the same name in columns. So these are some common things that we've encountered. And again, it's not, we don't really have control over that. It's not, we're just making use of the communication protocol, so we can't really control how it works. We have to work within their parameters. So what it doesn't like is if I do total, what do we got here? Maybe I'll do total donations, and I will add another column, and I will do that again. So what I've done here, it won't like this. So it doesn't want the same column header twice. So I can repeat columns in my report, but I just have to rename them. So if I do something like this in here, and I do something like this, then that's perfect. So it says, oh, great, I don't have 2 columns that have the same name. I'm okay. It doesn't like special characters in the column headers either. So try to avoid the special characters in the column headings. It doesn't, you can do things like grouping. I can do sums, that's okay. I can do criteria values, greater equal to 10,000. So things like that is fine. But there are some conditions you have to worry about, and it's really within the naming. So don't repeat the same name. Don't use special characters. And in some cases, there are limits as to how much data it can pull at in any one time. So it is communicating through the internet, and it'll grab a chunk of information and then say, okay, I've hit my max, and then it'll keep kind of rotating through. So you can, there's a lot of information on OData if you need to look it up. Like I said, it's a standard protocol, so you can easily find information on it on the web if you need to. But as far as SmartSimple is concerned, we try to make it as easy as possible for you. So use the OData connector, and we give you two types of links, public and private. Public is the link will just work. You don't need to provide a username and password, but in most cases, I would suggest you use the private access, which will then prompt you to enter a username and password. So if you choose in Excel that it's coming from a secure link, then you also have to provide credentials to log in. Another recommendation I would make is if you are using tools like OData or even through API, I would create a specific user in your system to handle these kind of connections. So rather than using your own personal user account, create a new user account that says, OData connection, maybe, and set that up to use as an option within the system. Another nice thing about those connections is that if I go here to my profile, we actually have a user type for that. So the nice thing with the API access is that it's a limited account. It gives you access, but not like a full user. So it only allows you to access the system through, for example, like an API. But you can create another user. Like I said, I create a specific user for that. The nice thing with that is if you ever need to track it and see the usage, then you can look at that user independently of your own account. So like I said, it's pretty easy. A lot of the questions from OData come with really how you want to apply it within your own organization. So maybe at this point, I'll pause and I'll stop, and rather than rambling here, I'm trying to fill the time, but it's a really powerful tool and it's really helpful for a lot of people. We have a number of clients now using it. And it's nice because you don't have to, the other departments maybe that you're working with or other teams, you give them the link and then they'll know what to do. So if I'm the in-house expert on Tableau, then, oh, great, thanks for the link. I don't have to worry about, how did this, how does SmartSimple work? It doesn't matter. I know how Tableau works, so you give me the link. I can use the tool that I'm familiar with, and you're off to the races. So maybe any questions from anybody? I'm kind of curious as to, is anyone on the line who's already used it? Any feedback from your use of the OData, or are other people curious about using or haven't given it a try yet? So maybe just to put some questions out there for you guys.
Great, thanks, Eric. We do have a question. How OData would work with SQL Server? You were saying it automatically updates in Excel and other programs. Does this mean that if we were to use OData to populate a table in SQL Server, that it would automatically get updated periodically? Or do we have to periodically call the OData report and update the table?
So yeah, good question. I'm not as familiar with SQL Server anymore, but I think you can queue it up where it just pulls it in. I know, like with tools like Excel, it's not going behind the scenes. You have to, when I say it's grabbing the latest data, it's when you open the Excel sheet. So I imagine in SQL, if I remember correctly, you'd have to set up some sort of process maybe for it to actively pull it. I don't think it will just, it's inert kind of a thing. So it would be up to your settings in SQL to say, yeah, go out there and grab the latest feed. So I'm sure as soon as you open the database, it will grab the latest information, but I'm not too sure if I'm sure there are, I believe there are, it's possible in SQL Server to grab or set a scheduled process to refresh the tables. But there'd be nothing to do from SmartSimple side. Once the link is there, it would be more from the other tool to determine how it refreshes the information. Like I said, Excel, it does it when you load. And you guys may have seen that before when it says, oh, there's something, you need to, you get that kind of warning button when you open an Excel sheet saying, hey, there's some data coming from somewhere else. Do you want to refresh? Do you want to load this? That's what it's doing. It's saying, oh, I got to go out there and grab the latest info. So I'm pretty sure in SQL Server it has that functionality.
Great, thanks.
Mhm.
What sort of permissions does the OData contact role need? Do they count as an internal user?
Yeah, just any authenticated user. So that's fine. Yeah, you don't have to worry about it if you're impacting a licensing or anything like that. You can just have it as a active user.
Great.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any other questions for Eric?
Yeah, it's
No,
a pretty.
it doesn't look like it.
No, I know. This one was after that we came up with the topics. I'm like, this is gonna be pretty short, but it's like I said, it's a pretty neat way of using the system, and I think it saves a lot of headaches for if you're in a position where you have to get data out. And it, we have a lot of great scheduling tools for exports and stuff, but then that still requires some manual intervention for someone to take that data and load it. So, I mean, really, it as a time saver or little impact to other users because it's active. So, okay, yes, you may have to open a file, but there's no need to then export, import, that kind of process. So the connection takes care of that. So if you have any questions, we're more than happy to give us a call, and we can talk how you can use it in your own organization. Like I said, it's been adopted now by several of our clients, and the feedback that we've heard is being pretty good. So we'd like to, see other people taking advantage of tools like this to make their lives easier.
Yeah, we actually just got a couple more questions. So,
okay.
Can you show how to use the link again? I'm guessing the.
Oh yeah, sure.
Great.
Yeah, let me see here. So this is Excel, as you can see on my screen. And let me go back to SmartSimple. Now, guys, I'm going into this untested, so I think my report was fine with the fields and stuff like that. So I will just grab here, and I'll go data. So in the, I believe the data tab is always on. You may have to, I remember at one point, I think you had to enable the data tab if it's not on by default, but you can do that in your Excel settings. Once you're into data, you can go get data, and then it says here from other sources. And again, it may be in a different spot depending on the version of Excel you have, but there will be an option to say OData feed. And in this case, once it loads, you can just paste in the URL, right? So that's what we did before. Advanced is if you wanted to combine things, but you don't really need to. If you just say basic, and then that's fine. So what it's going to try and do now is say, is this link valid? So what it's happening now is saying, wait a second, this is anonymous, meaning I'm not putting in any account information. So that means it's public. Anyone who opens this Excel file will see the data. So if you need to, you can put in a key, you can put in, this would be the option to use. What I was referring to is this basic option to put a username and password, and then that'll link it in with this. But in this case, I'll just say anonymous, just to show you. And then what it wants to do is pop up a screen and say, well, these are all the reports that are OData enabled on your system. So in this case, then we can, you can select them, and it will give you a preview. So in this case, it doesn't like the report I picked. It's just saying, wait a second, there's something going on in here. So this is what I was talking about to, you have to be careful. It wants information in a certain way. If there's, and this is the report I was showing you, but like the one here that I didn't prepare for OData, it will flag an error. So if you see an error like this, I'd say 90% of the time it's because there's something to do with the column headers. Either they're doubled up, or you've got a special character, or it doesn't like it when you convert the dates as well. It wants the dates to be left alone in their native format with the database. So if it does work, you will see this, and it gives you a little preview of what the records will look like. And then you just click load. And then when it pulls into the Excel sheet, now I have my data, and it's here for good. This refresh button is what will load the data again. It will go to SmartSimple and say, oh, grab me the latest. So I can do things like this, delete it, say, uh-oh, it's gone. But if I go back here and refresh, it says, wait a second, that information still exists in SmartSimple. I'm going to pull it back down again. If you need to take a moment in time and say, well, wait a second, I don't want this spreadsheet always being the latest. I need to make that report for now. In that case, you can always go here and just do a save as. So once you save the file, it doesn't keep the link. So the link is only effective in this file that I've created now. If I do a file save as, it will just save the results and it won't pull in the latest data. So you can always take these snapshots and say, oh, this is going to be June. And I can do a save as, this is my June report. And then I can keep this file here for me to work on and so forth.
Great. Can you stitch together reports with OData?
Yeah, so I can have different connections. I can grab another connection, again, from a different feed. Maybe I want that feed to go into a different sheet. So yeah, once you have the different links, then you can tie them all together into one file, let's say. So I know what some clients have done is they've actually made very discrete reports in SmartSimple, one maybe for payments, one for reports or whatever. And then they're just pulling those links when they need to generate the information they need.
So I think that's all the questions we have today. Like Eric said, if anybody does have any questions, please feel free to email us after the webinar, and we're happy to help you out if you need any more information about OData.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Well, thanks again, everyone, for your time, and kept it short and sweet today. So enjoy the rest of your day.
Have a good day, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.